Shrimad's Divine Grace, founder of Iskana Bhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, their most merciful Lordship Shri Kunja Vihari ki, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mahesabhadra ki, Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal ki, Shri Gornitai ki, Nitai Go Premanand. All glories to the assembled of the all glories to the assembled all glories to the assembled all glories to the Lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Looks like someone has removed the marker from its place. We're, do you know if we're at what text? We're on 35, 37. 37.
37. Maybe 38. Let me see.
Yeah, he left to wander at his free will. So we are on 38. Yeah, text 38 today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiraya Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. Reading Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Text 38. Aho, Devarishi, Danyo, Yam, Aho, Devarishi, Danyo, Yam, Yat, Kirtim, Sangadan Vana, Yat Kirtim Sangadan Vana, Gayan, Madhyan, Idam, Tantriya, Gayan Madhyan Idam Tantriya, Ramayati, Aturam, Jagat, Ramayati Aturam Jagat, Aho Devarishir Danyoyam, Aho Devarishir Danyoyam, Aho Devarishir Danyoyam, Yatkirtim Sangadan Vana, Yatkirtim Sangadan Vana, Yatkirtim Sangadan Vana, Gayan Madhyamidan Tantra, Gayan Madhyamidan Tantriya, Gayan Madhyanidam Tantriya, Ramayatyaturam Jagat, Yamayatyaturam Jagat, Ramayatyaturam Jagat. Aho Devarishir Danyoyam, Yatkirtim Sangadan Vana, Gayan Madhyanidam Tantriya, Ramayatyaturam Jagat, Aho Devarishir Danyoyam, Yatkirtim Sangadan Vana, Gayan Madhyanidam Tantriya, Ramayatyaturam Jagat, Aho. All glory to Devarishi, the sage of the gods, Danya, all success, I am Yat, one who, Kirtim, glories, Sangardanvana, of the personality of Godhead, Gayam, singing, Madhyan, taking pleasure in, Idam, this, Tantriya, by means of the instrument, Ramayati, enlivens, Aturam, distressed, Jagat, world. Aho Devarishir Danyoyam, Yatkirtim Samgadan Vana, Gayan Madhyanidam Tantriya, Ramayatyaturam Jagat. All glories. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhayacharnananda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. All glory and success to Srila Narad Muni, because he glorifies the activities of the personality of Godhead. And so doing, he himself takes pleasure and also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe. Please repeat. All glory and success.
All glory and success.
To Srila Narad Muni.
To Srila Narada Muni.
Because he glorifies the activities.
Because he glorifies the activities.
Of the personality of Godhead.
Of the personality of Godhead.
And so doing.
And by so doing.
He himself takes pleasure. And also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe. All glory and success to Srila Narad Muni, because he glorifies the activities of the personality of Godhead. And so doing, he himself takes pleasure and also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe. Purport. By his divine grace, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Sri Narad Muni plays on his instrument to glorify the transcendental activities of the Lord and to give relief to all miserable living entities of the universe. No one is happy here within the universe, and what is felt as happiness is Maya's illusion. The illusory energy of the Lord is so strong that even the hog who lives on filthy stool feels happy. No one can be truly happy within the material world. Srila Narad Muni, in order to enlighten the miserable inhabitants, wanders everywhere. His mission is to get them back home, back to Godhead. That is the mission of all genuine devotees of the Lord, following the footsteps of that great sage, Narad Muni. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 6th chapter of the Shrimadbhagavatam, entitled Conversation Between Narad and Vyasadeva. Om Jnanatimarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chaksusun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. What a glorious soul Narad Muni is. We see how dear he is to Krishna, and that dearness is revealed by the fact here in this verse, revealing that his only desire is to bring liberation to other souls and to relieve them from the distress. So, similarly, the devotees in their chanting, going out in the Sankirtan movement, brings relief from the distress that people are having in the material world. This morning when I was chanting Gayatri, I was realizing as well, this form that Lord Chaitanya is in, he's taking, you might say, as a servant, as a devotee of Krishna. But in one of our verses of Gayatri, we recognize him nevertheless as the one who controls all the world, the energies, all the energies in the world, and he controls where the world is, where the world is going. He controls the wind, the rain, the elements, everything that is affecting this planet. I was told when I first came to the movement that by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna, having control over the wind, the rain, and the elements, brings that needed rain for the harvest of the crops to be plentiful. And when the devotees chant then, by the chanting, that situation is created, as explained in the Shastra, by the chanting for the plenteous produce of the crops to come forth. So just as it is said that the moon creates flavor for all the plants that produce foodstuffs, the moon is the force of the Supreme Personality that causes these foods to have flavor. But then, what to speak of the holy names? Krishna says, I am the taste of water. So then when the rains come, then not only are they nourishing the plant, giving the plant the ability to come to its fructification, to its maturity, but it is also enabling that plant for human beings and the other living entities that these plants are produced for to be able to have taste. So the taste brings us a desire to have them, in a sense. And this is one of the openings of the body that the soul is looking to be satisfied with. And so, just the same way, if he does that without using that energy in the service of the Lord, then automatically it's being either, you could look at it as being either wasted or to the detriment of the advancement of society by the surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in his endeavors to satisfy the senses of the body, man engaging in all these activities is trying to change the way things are, believing that they're not perfect in their original state. When we go looking to plant seeds, we look for what is called heirloom seeds. Heirloom seeds are seeds which have not been tampered with either in their genetic design or in their abilities to produce by hybrid germination. And you can take the stem of one fruit and graft it, it's called, to the stem of another fruit. So, in order for the fruit to retain its original flavor, the seed has to be planted in its original form. So this is the value of holding these seeds, keeping these seeds in their original forms. Even though other forms can be made from them, we still need the original forms to have the original taste. Because the mixing of these seeds then changes the flavor of the fruit, does it not? So, but just the same way the mixing of colors creates different colors. And we have only 3 colors that are the base for all the colors that we can see, which now has turned out to be millions and millions and millions of different colors by the adding of this and the adding of that. But so we have to get back to the original form, which brings us back to the mode of goodness, actually. Even the colors have been set into a pattern of dominated by the modes of either ignorance, passion, or goodness. Yellow is said to be in the mode of goodness. Red is said to be in the mode of passion. But see, Krishna is in control of everything. There's red, yellow, and blue. But see, colors have an effect on our consciousness, actually. They did tests in a prison, painting the bars of the prison different colors. And this saffron color had the most calming effect of all the colors, for some reason. So, saffron is said to be the color that one takes when he takes on a consciousness of renunciation. In India, this is recognized, right? In America, what people wear is very much a statement of what class they belong to. They wear a tie. It says one thing about their profession. If they wear blue jeans with holes in it, and a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, it says something about, possibly about maybe what they're involved with doing at this particular moment. So depending upon what they're wearing as well might be revealing what they are doing now. And this is what our bodies are revealing, what we are desiring now with these bodies, which requires us to be put in this material universe because we've been desiring these flavors, these tastes that this universe has to offer. Krishna wants to make us aware of the fact that there are better tastes to be tasted than anything that can be found in this material universe. So, with the Veena playing that Narad Muni has in his hands, he can satisfy the desire for taste. When hearing the transcendental sound vibration produced by that which is itself eternal. Not in an ordinary sound vibration that Narad Muni would be producing from this Veena. But the sound itself is said to be producing a satisfaction for the soul to be able to experience the taste of relationship with Krishna. Krishna gave that, see, so many ways that can be looked at because Krishna gave the Veena to Narad Muni. That's one aspect of how it can create relationship with Krishna. But another fact is the fact that Krishna had given it to Narad Muni, who is himself always in relationship with Krishna because he's always chanting. Then it can be looked at as well because the only sound vibration that this instrument has ever been used for is by Narad Muni, who's a pure devotee, and who is bringing out of the Veena itself, who is also pure soul, pure devotee, in its original form. See that? That's how they reverse back to these original seeds, which refers back to what we are eating. Which gets back to our original taste. So that place now we are putting in our consciousness of taste is what in the spiritual world is relationship. And when we read in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we see the various experiences that we're supposed to be having with one another through relationship, and each of them described as a flavor. And such can be even anxieties in there, distresses in there. These forms ghastliness, and then there's forms of pleasure and happiness as well. And some of them mix with each other and some of them don't. At a time when someone's just left their body, we don't make trivial pursuits of frivolity because these things don't mesh together. So all this guidance and the psychology of relationships revealed in this ancient, more than 5,000 years old. 5,000 years ago was the time it was most recently put into writing. Well, maybe not most recently, but for the general masses to be able to take advantage of. But it reveals to us how knowledge of God even supersedes the origin of humankind. And it is that original seed, that original knowledge that we want to be returning to be able to have access like Narada Muni, giving access to us. And then we know what brings liberation to souls as far as sound vibration is concerned is Krishna's name. So, in effect, by Krishna's giving us the holy name, Hare Krishna, we see this giving of the Veena to Narada Muni. Isn't that such a wondrous, friendly gesture? Krishna gives him something that is of eternal substance that can, by the use of, bring liberation to everyone that it comes in contact with. That's what Krishna has given us. Look at that. In the form of this chanting of the Maha Mantra. Think of that. We have the equivalent of Narada Muni's Veena in the holy name. We don't have the same means the Veena has to be able to create the same sound as beautifully and as attractively. But Krishna has put in the sound vibration of his holy names all of his spiritual potency. Does Narada Muni have more than we do? Does Narada Muni, is that included in the all? We have to define, what does all mean? Does it all mean everything there is, isn't it? What does all mean? Yeah. So it's pretty powerful, this that we have been given. We can see, by comparison, the potency of it. For Krishna to give it as the very means for every single soul in the universe to find satisfaction with it in order to be able to get freed from the bondage that these material desires we still have creating dormant in our minds and our hearts that we haven't squeezed out yet. But we will. Because Krishna will give us a chance. When we surrender to Krishna, then requests in prayer become more easily experienced. But of course, because of that you're directing your energies and desires towards that same desire that is in line with what Krishna wants done here. As soon as you start wanting to give this philosophy to others, Krishna empowers you to those others that are willing to receive it. Because that's what limits us, in effect, is by others desiring to hear. If you want to hear, you created within the environment of your consciousness the ability to absorb. But people who just deny and they're constantly looking for faults, they're constantly trying to find and prove their own conclusions about life and all this, they have boarded themselves off from being able to receive true knowledge, which gets back to the original seed. So Krishna, the two syllables, Krishna actually is the one and only original seed from which all other seeds came from. So see, the more we get closer to even taking into our physical bodies that original form of energy that Krishna came from the beginning, the more we get back to that all energy, that energy that Krishna is. Because there's a pure form and an original form of every seed that Krishna gave through his name into Brahma's body. And we can get back to that. This is what purity is. Purity, Srila Prabhupada said, is the force. So we want to know what purity is. And this chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is what will bring purity to the experience of our minds. To know that name in its original sound and to be fed by it. Because this is what actually chanting is giving us. It is giving us the nourishment that the soul needs to experience for it to be able to know itself, what it is made of. Here in the material world, the tongue tastes other than what it is made of. Right? If you have, I can tell you by experience because I have eaten meat, which is a bad thing to, say we learn by, but eating meat does not give self-realization. Because we're not these bodies. But eating prasadam does. That's peculiar, isn't it? I mean, in and of itself, if someone only takes prasadam and never hears the truth about Krishna, it's not a complete whole. Yet, in and of itself, prasadam is a complete whole. It's spiritually complete. It's just as much Krishna inspired as the holy names. This how powerful. Everything in Krishna consciousness. Krishna is putting himself in every aspect of Krishna consciousness for it to attract the souls to its original place where we belong, at home. Home is the house Srila Prabhupada was prophesied he could build for the whole world to live in. It makes it home. Home is where the soul finds safety, comfort, protection, strength, truth, love. All these things leading to the supreme force, which love is. Because love contains it all. But love, we see by the revelation given, that love is both Radha and Krishna combined. And in Krishna's completeness, he is more than one body can reveal, one personality can reveal. Because just like Yamaraj, the child of Yamaraj, Yudhisthira, manifests in this world the perfection of Yamaraj, which is the perfection of religion. And then we could say, now Lord Indra was put in the position of ruling the heavenly planets in this universe because, just like Brahma, he had made a level of advancement spiritually to be able to be put into that position. So similarly, his offspring, by his advanced consciousness, the offspring he produces will be of superior nature to those that can be produced by those who are of a lower consciousness. And this is a real division of society, is consciousness. Advancement of society is advancement of the way society is believing truth to be. And so if they are believing in distorted perceptions about the supreme absolute truth, then they will get those perverted distortions as a result, which are not complete. So, Dharmaraj, as one aspect of Krishna's personality, is not the only aspect of Krishna's personality, and is performing a particular function in this world, like a man who goes to the job to perform a function at the automobile factory, which means spray painting cars. He's going to be in a different uniform than the man who was in the office writing out his paycheck. They are wearing different coverings according to the function they're performing in society. Similarly, Yamaraj is performing a function within this world. Even though he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's wearing a different covering for the purpose he's performing. Yeah. So, when Yudhisthira, as his son, manifests, he reveals as well that limitation which religion has in and of itself. And why I can say that is because that's why Krishna says, give up all your forms of religion and just surrender unto me. And by surrendering unto Krishna, then all those other practices of religion are automatically fulfilled. So you don't have to take, like, if you're already engaged in Krishna consciousness, religion is already built in. You don't have to do something else on one day of the week to serve God. You're already serving God. This is 24/7. Krishna consciousness is not once a week religion. It's 24/7. So it is consciousness. It's 24/7, isn't it? It's not a time through the day that we're not conscious, unless we're in a coma or something. But you know what? Even in a coma, we may see that person as, quote unquote, halfway dead, right? Not experiencing. But in a coma, the soul can be just as alive as they are when their body is showing the life that they're living. Because the experience is real that the soul is having with the conceptualizations. The mind is giving the soul the experience of, because of the soul's lack of being able to control the mind, then he puts himself at the pitiful demands of the mind. Thoughts are so powerful that they will lead us to our end, that we create in our minds. Think about that. And so this is why it is so very dangerous for these religions to promote these ideas that to the extent that you could say probably more than 50% of the planet believe ideas about God that are not actually even true. And what effect that has on people that are of a reasonable mind, it justifies their beliefs that, well, these people don't know God. And if that's the only book there is, which is what they're also promoting, maybe there isn't a God. This is the conclusions they draw as atheists, a lot of them. And they look, you could say somewhat subjectively, at the histories of the world to see what effects on the world people's belief in God has had on the promotion of society and its ability to work together with one another. So, see, there are those amongst atheists that by recognition only of those who do not know God, who are proclaiming with their lives to know God, then they give a misconception about who Krishna is. Which I could conclude, there's a very likeliness Krishna doesn't even like being called God anymore. by what mankind has made him out to be. This is why we keep getting reminded that he never leaves Vrindavan. Because that original form that Krishna is, united with Srimati Radharani, is an eternal form and experience for Krishna. He's never anything other than what he always has been and always will be. And so when men make up stories about him, we can only imagine how it must make him feel. And the effects that has on so many other people, especially. See, the more famous they become in that regard, then the bigger effect they have on the rest of humanity at large. What Krishna says, whatever a great man chooses to do, then other people will follow, right? And so the greater these people become believed to be in society, the more they become a cause for downfall, which you could say what should be to their benefit actually becomes to their detriment if they're not speaking the truth about God. And then if people have their minds so tuned only in to their own desires, their own life, and concluding for themselves their own truths about life, what value does that have, really? If the mind doesn't have the ability to perceive transcendence, which goes beyond birth and death, then the soul left to its own has no means of figuring it out, as I say, figuring it out. So we have to have Guru, we have to have God, we have to have Krishna if we ever have any hope of being removed from this environment of birth, death, old age, and disease. If anybody can show me any path giving the guarantee, the promise, that yes, if you take part in these activities, then you will go back to the place where there is eternity. This is what Krishna consciousness is saying. Right out in the open, plainly. As, what is it, Bhaktivinoda was saying? In the streets of the city, Krishna is selling himself. He's giving himself openly. Take a book for a donation and become free from the bonds of birth, death, old age, and disease. How can we compare that to the value of anything in this physical realm whatsoever? And then having the truths of God himself to guide us for the rest of our lives and to give us the ability to know and determine right from wrong, intelligence from foolishness, wisdom from immature conclusions drawn by immature perspectives. We can have the foresight, we can have the vision to be able to see all these things perfectly in our lives, especially following these principles that enable the human being to develop without hindrance. Alcohol destroys the digestive process in a stomach, and used over and over again, it creates sores in the stomach and ultimately death. All these four regulative principles you'll see, the breaking of which causes man's deterioration of his physical body more rapidly. So Krishna's not giving us these as a punishment or to make us sacrifice something. Rather, he's giving us something better in exchange. And so, see, that's why these people who have in their minds for 20, 30, 40 years, they go out on the weekend, have a few drinks, dance with a few people, and then think that as enjoyment. And then they have done that for so long, they can't see anything else. This is why it's better for a person to be brought into the truth at a very young age, because then they don't have a time for the mind to start forming patterns and habits that will be detrimental to the soul's growth and the soul's ability to realize. People who sit down in a restaurant, they are eating the food of someone they never met in their life for the most part, mostly. You go to a restaurant, you never met the cook, right? Don't know who the cook is. And yet, they will put the food that that person prepares into their body that is, by everyone's knowledge, causing the mind to be able to function. The food we put into our bodies has an interaction with the organs in the body to be able to make all of these organs function, right? So we can conclude that the food we put into our body is directly connected to our consciousness being able to function, at least. So if there's a connection there, there's a connection with the DNA that we don't see as well, because all these living forms of life that we put into these bodies also have DNA. And that DNA is a record of the advancement that soul has made up to this point. So when they change that into a form that cannot replicate itself, and then we take that into our bodies, the same way we do with milk that's been homogenized. The body doesn't recognize it as food anymore. Doesn't know what in the world it is. It's been tampered with. So they're thinking God is not perfect. God has not made anything perfect. Even their scriptures say everything in this world is imperfect, so to speak. But the seed and its original form, which is what the soul is. The soul has an original place, and the act of seva, bhakti, this devotional service that Krishna is revealing to us as one of the processes for us to experience what we are, then that bhakti has the ability, because in it's an extension of Krishna's consciousness. Bhakti is Krishna's consciousness. Krishna's love for us is manifest as energy that we do for Krishna. So that when we do it, if we are conscious of Krishna while we are doing it, we will experience Krishna's love for us. That's what it is for. Bhakti is in part for us to be able to experience Krishna's loving of us. We think of bhakti as something for us to do. But bhakti is something Krishna is giving us to experience. In the difference of the consciousness we will have in the engagement of that bhakti. So if we look at it like that, Krishna wants to do something with me. We come to Mangalarti, he wants to dance with us. And that's what he's doing with the gopis. He's dancing with the gopis, and here he is calling us common people yet to come and dance with me in the morning. He's put aside all these designations which he reveals in the form of Lord Chaitanya. Which Lord Chaitanya said, I'm not a sannyasi. I'm not a this, I'm not a that, I'm not any of these things. I am just soul. But the substance of the soul is glorious. And that's also what this starts out Your activities, Narad Muni, are glorious. And see, they reveal the activities themselves by a realized soul, reveal the nature of the soul also. Constant, unchanging, strong, mature, guided, predestined, you might even say, predestined. By following in line with the orders, the instructions Krishna is giving us, we will be returning back to that which we could experience if our lives, if we had lived perfectly. Krishna will restore that perfection to our lives, because that's what perfection remains perfection. And so when we surrender to Krishna, we're surrendering to the perfection that we could gain. The greatest perfection you can have is surrender to Krishna. Yeah. I guess it's time. It's 9 o'clock. After 9 o'clock. We don't have time for questions, but we'll take them in. If anybody has any. All questions have been answered. Wow. Shrimadbhagavatam, Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada, Ki